I've studied equipment over 50 hours, gotten over 1 million long-form views, and made hundreds of charts for all the equipment in the game. And I'm going to use all that information to tell you what the best hero equipment is in Clash of Clans, but it gets even better. Because instead of using just my own judgment and research, I tested out top-tier equipment at the highest level, watched recent pro tournaments to see what they were using, and even reviewed other creators' recommendations. So if your goal is to understand hero equipment unlike anything before and master offense in this game, this is the right video for you. Now before we get started, let me mention a few caveats. First of all, this is a guide on the best individual equipment and not synergy. That will be a guide in its own. It's important to make an individual equipment guide just in case there are balance changes or new attack strategies in the future. Next, I'm only going to focus on equipment stats at the highest level of the game because equipment is a long-term investment and all players will get there eventually. With that being said, let's get into it. To begin, let's discuss the 6 pieces of equipment that I wouldn't recommend any player to use under any circumstance. At the bottom of the barrel, we have the Barbarian Puppet. This equipment can be useful at the lower levels, especially when you don't have epic equipment available. That being said, it simply gets outclassed by other equipment and it's not a good long-term investment, which is something we should always be aware of. Along these same notes is the Archer Puppet, which got a nice buff to its invisibility in the latest update. Despite this, epic equipment for the Queen as well as other equipment pieces simply outshine the potential of using this piece of equipment. The Royal Gem is next on our list. Now this equipment offers amazing health regeneration and it has good synergy with all the other Royal Champion equipments, but it fails to offer a good damage burst and it also isn't meta compatible, making this a bad investment in the long term. In the number 18 spot, we have the Vamp Stash, which is sometimes used with the Spiky Ball. However, it is just simply outclassed by all the other meta options. It's personally something that I wouldn't recommend and I don't think that players should use it. The Seeking Shield is the next one to bite the dust. Even though it has good synergy with the Rocket Spear, as an individual piece of equipment, it is completely underwhelming compared to some of the other options that we have. And to finish the bottom 6, at our number 17 spot, we have the Life Gem. Now I know that due to the changes recently, this equipment has helped to revive some strategies like Lalo and Hybrid, but despite that, its versatility in different attacks is limited and a lot of players will do better with just the casual meta options right now for the Grand Warden. Alright, now with all of that out of the way, let's move on to the middle 6 where I can elaborate a little bit more on each piece of equipment. At number 16, we have the Invisibility Vial. This equipment used to be really good due to its damage burst and cop-out ability, but the Magic Mirror has not only offered a better damage burst, but it's actually more consistent. The Magic Mirror also has the same cop-out ability, so the Invisibility Vial has really lost its value in recent times. Moving on, at number 15, we have the Giant Arrow. Now this equipment offers really good damage to buildings, but its main use is to take out air sweepers when you're doing an air attack. An important thing to note is that the Giant Arrow can do this by level 12, so if you want to keep this as an option, all you need to do is get it to that level. However, its lack of versatility as well as easy synergy cannot be understated, and that is why it is not higher on this list. At number 14, we have the Rage Gem. Now this equipment is getting tons of use with smash attacks currently, despite its nerf at the early levels. Because it has continuous rage all the time and it's not activation dependent, it has really good synergy with things like the Fireball. That being said, on its own, it's actually not that crazy of an equipment. I think it just fits into the role a lot better, and I don't think a lot of attacks will actually rely on the Rage Gem to work. In the number 13 spot, we have the Rage Vial. Now the primary use of this equipment is with the Giant Gauntlet, since it has the best synergy there and can clear out a lot of buildings. But even if you don't have the Giant Gauntlet, the Rage Vial can do a lot on its own and it's available early on, so it has a lot of things going for it. That being said, it isn't completely integral to attacks and is not the best option. That is why it's not higher on the list. At number 12, we're gonna have the very first epic equipment on this list, and of course I'm talking about the Frozen Arrow. Now this might be puzzling to some people because this equipment gets used quite a bit, but I think it's a little bit overrated. It only provides benefit to whatever single target the Queen is attacking, and the Queen has high DPS, so usually those buildings don't even last that long anyways. The good thing about the equipment is that it's passive, so it has great synergy with any active ability the Queen could use, but on its own, it's not really making a huge difference to the entire attack unless we're talking about the Queen charge, and that is why I put it at the number 12 spot. Now moving on to number 11, we have the Hog Rider Puppet. Now this equipment recently got nerfed and the hogs are a lot weaker than they used to be. That being said, this equipment is still really good. As long as you have some type of shielding for the hogs, mods, you can actually use them within smash attacks very easily. In my opinion, the nerf just made it so you can't yeet the royal champion into a corner and expect everything to be okay. But as far as the common equipment goes, this is still a really strong piece of equipment, and it has really great synergy with the haste vial, which is still getting a lot of use. Okay, now we're getting into the top 10 equipment. These are the best of the best and are pretty good in almost any situation, so I will be breaking them down more in depth than I have been. Starting at the number 10 spot, we have the healing tome. Now yes, this equipment did receive a nerf in recent times, however the mechanics are still pretty decent. And some people might be asking, why is it higher than the rage gem considering that smash attacks are super popular right now? Really what it comes down to is versatility, ease of use, as well as the actual stats that it has. Both are relatively easy to use, but the healing tome is more versatile and it can replace the heal spell, while the rage gem doesn't nearly do as much as the rage spell. It also meshes perfectly with the eternal tome, and I think this synergy actually keeps it super relevant. All that being said though, I'm not gonna gaslight you. If you are doing a smash attack, you will likely be using the rage gem over the healing tome. Now moving on to number 9, we have an equipment that has been getting a lot of attention recently, the rocket spear. After the buff, the rocket spear has 10 shots of 980 additional damage. This thing is an absolute monster. It can be extremely useful for clearing up an area to try and get better pathing, or to just take out some buildings towards the end of the attack to make everything go a lot smoother. So why isn't the rocket spear any higher? Well, first of all, it doesn't have the greatest synergy combinations. It probably gets the best combination with the seeking shield, and that in itself is not that good. Second of all, it's an epic equipment, and with all the meta epic equipment that we have right now, selecting the equipment that you want to invest your resources into is getting more important than ever. In my opinion, there are other epic equipment that are out right now that simply deserve your resources first, and that is why this is lower on the list. Going on to number 8, we have one of those epic equipment. It is the giant gauntlet. Now this is super surprising just because of how good this piece of equipment actually is, and make no mistake, even after the nerf, it is super good. The main reason why it's a little bit lower on the list is because there's actually a meta combination that's being used, and it doesn't include the giant gauntlet, which is a little bit surprising. But I just want to clarify, this doesn't mean the giant gauntlet isn't good. It's just rather used in attacks where you need more tanking instead of more damage nowadays. And personally, I think this is still a really good piece of equipment. It's just not the obvious choice like it was before. Next up at number 7, we have the healer puppet. And yeah, probably a lot of you guys are like, what? You know, you put the healer puppet over the giant gauntlet? But here's the thing, this equipment indirectly became better when the magic mirror came out because the fact that the healers can also heal the clones. And with the prevalence of smash attacks right now, the presence of additional healers halfway through the attack is very helpful. On top of this, the best thing about it is that it is a common piece of equipment, which means you can get it a lot easier, you can upgrade it a lot easier, and it really does genuinely deserve this spot. And at number 6, we have the spiky ball. This thing is just phenomenal, even though it recently did get nerfed, but what's amazing is what's happening all around it. Specifically, the earthquake boots spiky ball combination has completely taken over the meta now. Specifically, the king has changed his role from the fast moving tank with a little bit of DPS that we were used to a complete nuke that just opens up the entire base, and the spiky ball has the best value there, and that's why it's so good. But now on to the top 5 pieces of equipment in the game currently, and I genuinely think if you use any of these, you literally cannot go wrong. At number 5, we have the haste vial. Even though it got nerfed in the recent balance update, this thing is just dynamite. It is so good. The speed and the extra damage burst is absolutely amazing, but what people don't really realize about this is that you get a lot of those benefits even at the early levels. Furthermore, it being a common equipment makes it so much easier to upgrade and to get levels on, which is literally the best thing possible. Easily the best equipment for the royal champion in my opinion. At number 4, we have the magic mirror. I've always thought that this thing was strong, and now we're seeing it fit really good into the smash meta that we're seeing at higher level play. The fact that it also gives your queen a cop-out ability is absolutely insane. Now I do think that currently this is the best piece of equipment for the queen. It is just completely overpowering. However, I can see it getting a little bit situational and preferable in smash attacks versus other attacks like queen charge. But the individual capability of this equipment cannot be understated. As you guys can see in my chart right here, if a queen attack once per second, she can do up to 45,900 damage in that span of 30 seconds where this equipment is active, so that's absolutely insane. The damage burst is really what's taking this to the next level on this list. Moving on, at number 3, we have an equipment equipment that I never really thought would be as good as it is, the Earthquake Boots. The radius on the Earthquake Boots is literal insanity, and when you pair it with the spiky ball, you can just bomb out part of the base. The fact that the boots give you complete access across walls is absolutely insane, especially in a smash attack meta. That means you can save a lot of spell space on what used to be jump spells. And one of the best things about this equipment is the fact that you get that wall benefit on any level of wall from level 1 of the Earthquake Boots, and that's crazy. On top of this all, it is a common equipment, and that is absolutely insane. It means it's going to be so much easier to upgrade than some of the other equipment on this list. The boots went from literally the worst equipment in the game to the best equipment in the game, and I think it's something that every player should be using in their attacks. Next up, we have the number 2 spot on our list. It is an equipment that I didn't give enough credit to before, the Warden Fireball. Now, the Fireball has always done tons of damage, but the fact that everything but the Fireball got nerfed and we're in a smash attack meta right now, this thing is absolutely insane. Here's the thing, one of the most important aspects of attacking in Clash of Clans is funneling, and you can basically do that in just a single button now using the Warden Fireball. And in my opinion, the Earthquake Boots getting the buff that they did literally buffed the Fireball and its usage, because now smash attacks are a go-to option. They're so easy to use and they are very consistent. Players have also started to get a little bit creative using invisibility spells to have that Warden Fireball aim farther into the base. A word of caution though, if used the wrong way, it can be absolutely devastating to your attack. But moving on, at the top of our list, at the number 1 spot, we have none other than the Eternal Tome. Now, a lot of you might be saying, okay, well, you're not going to use the Eternal Tome and the Fireball together, so how can you put them 1 and 2? Well, here's the thing. If you had to take one equipment on any smash attack, if you could only pick one, it would be the Fireball. And if you could take one equipment on any attack that is not a smash attack, it would be the Eternal Tome. Even with the duration nerf, the Eternal Tome is still what it was when it first came out. It is a way for you to almost completely render your opponent's base and its defenses useless. But there's 2 other things that make the Eternal Tome actually as good as it is. First thing is that it is a common piece of equipment, meaning that most players will either already have it maxed or it's going to be really easy for them to get it to that level. The second is that, to be honest, it takes almost no skill to use. Like, it's perfect for the casual player who is not keeping up with the meta and just wants to do good war attacks. So in my opinion, to this day, the Eternal Tome is still the king of equipment in Clash of Clans. Now, even though this list is over, a lot of you might be wondering what specific equipment should you upgrade and put priority to first. I will give you 3 recommendations, one for players in general, one for air attackers, and one for smash attack players. For general players, you might want to upgrade in this order: your Eternal Tome, Magic Mirror, Earthquake Boots, Haste Vial, Healing Tome, Spiky Ball, Healer Puppet, and Hog Rider Puppet. This combination is the most versatile and will help you with almost any attack in the game. For air attackers, you might want to switch the Earthquake Boots with the Giant Gauntlet, that way you can get some extra tanking, and you might also want to get your Giant Arrow to level 12 for sweepers. You can also use the Fireball if you want to try and get some good pathing, but I think the Eternal Tome is better. And for the meta smash attacks, I think the Fireball and the Earthquake Boots are first priority, followed by the Rage Gem as well as the Spiky Ball. Now, I hope that by this point in the video, you confidently know which equipment are the best as well as why they are so good. But if you don't know about the hero equipment balance changes, and not just the numbers and what they are, but the interpretations behind them, you actually risk falling behind when new meta emerges. That's why you need to watch this video right here, where I break down in agonizing detail the brand new meta changes as well as the potential implications of those meta changes in the game for all players of all Town Hall levels.